Okay, so welcome to this week's Fife Property Update. Right across Fife for the last week, I look at the numbers. They're actually quite revealing this week. For a change, they've actually reversed from the previous weeks and the previous year. So I'm actually quite surprised. It shows us a trend that's maybe going to happen in the coming weeks to come. I'm also going to talk about not all estate agents are the same and the reason why behind that. And then some of the transactions and some of the properties coming on during the week, as well as some of the articles that we've got through this blog itself that you can click onto as a result of it. So let's look at the numbers for last week, and let's look at what came on the market right across Fife and in region by region. So you can see Cooper there, 12 properties came onto the market, 10 actual properties went under offer and were sold, subject to concluding missives. That's actually quite surprising. Showing a reverse in the trend of supply outstripping demand. East Nuke 5 versus 5. St Andrews 11 versus 5. That's 11 properties come on the St Andrews market, and only 5 have actually sold in that week. That's showing a trend which actually supply is beginning to outstrip demand. What could we see there? Possibly prices levelling off, offers levelling off as well. But time will tell, and we'll see how we get on. Leavenmouth 12 versus 6. That's a real reversing trend. Leavenmouth has always been outstripping demand, has always been outstripping supply. So 12 versus 6. We'll see more of that next week and see what these fortunes reverse. Dunfermline 37 versus 48 come to market. Well, demand's clearly outstripping supply there. Glenrothes 14 versus 9, again a reverse of previous weeks. And Kirkcaldy 39 versus 40. There's no surprise that Kirkcaldy is getting to the realms of properties changing hands of the Dunfermline, of the region of Dunfermline, same sort of demand. It's probably because of the new development out by Barrett, where they're building almost 1,000 homes. It's clearly obviously indicating that maybe a lot of people in the Kirkcaldy area are actually selling in order to buy on that development off plan. And with the premise to move in. So that's possibly where that trend's coming from. Overall, total for the week itself was 130 properties come onto the market versus 123. It's first time actual the other way's been round, where demand has been, supply has been more than demand itself. Okay, a couple of transactions, some of the transactions that have happened in the week for ours. Our division, properties that have changed for the week. We have Links, Crescent and Tayport, Craigmill View and Newborough. Some of the properties have actually sold and gone under offer. So St Abbs, Crescent and Pittenweem. St Abbs, Crescent and Pittenweem is away at a record price. If you're looking, if you've looking to sell a 3-bedroom lower apartment in the Pittenweem area, or the East Nuke area, please get in touch with us, because we've got people that have missed out as a result. 4 West Shore and St Monans, it's away for an offer they couldn't refuse. You've probably seen my plea to people. We had 2 other people lined up to view that, and they had to be cancelled. But they are in a position to proceed. That was offers over 500,000 4 West Shore and St Monans. 13 Finland Douglas Court is away in St Andrews again. That was a 2-bedroom semi-detached in St Andrews, right next door to Morrison's, stone's throw away from the East Sands. But we've got number 10 coming on soon, so watch out for that. 35 Woodburn Terrace and St Andrews. Never even got a viewer through the door, really. It's gone. Bought straight away. So that's away as well. That was a 2-bedroom lower apartment. So if you've got a 2-bedroom lower apartment in the St Andrews area, we have people waiting, because again, they've lost out as well. We have hot buyers for detached properties in St Andrews, minimum of 3 beds up to 400,000. We have also semi-detached properties or detached properties in Cooper for 3 beds up to 250,000. We have also looking for a cottage or a house in Strathmiglo, Uchtermuchte or Fruki, minimum 2 beds up to 170,000. If you're not sure about the valuation of your property, there is a Ready Reckoner valuation tool in this post that you can just click on. It gives you an instant valuation of your property and gives you a rough idea of where it sits in terms of there. Because if we've got people waiting to buy, then it's a perfect opportunity for you to move forward. Other properties exchanged in Kirkcaldy itself as well. That's again, a viewer never walked through the door with that one. It was sold. We have devised a system from lockdown that's obviously it's carried on, where Some people just never need to walk in the door ever again until they actually buy the house and move in on that day. They're quite happy sometimes with actually not being in the house and actually just getting on the day and getting the keys and then walking in the door. So we have devised a system to do that. And also someone looking for a house or a bungalow in the Leaven area, minimum 2 beds, up to 170,000 budget as well. So that's what it is. So not all estate agents are the same. We hear that all the time. It's amazing how many people actually approach us and think, well, you know, just all the same. Do you know, do all the same thing? Well, let me give you some examples here. So I'll not say the area. I'll say a semi-detached property sold 6 months before for 250,000. We put ours on probably slightly smaller than the one next door, and we sold it for 55,000 more 6 months later. Another property, an apartment came on, and the downstairs actually went for a certain price. And a week later, we listed the upstairs property, probably exactly the same, didn't have the garden, and we sold it for 100,000 more than the downstairs one with another agent. Okay, and then finally another one in the St Andrews area. There was a property that came on at St Andrews, and it came on before ours, and it's still sitting on for sale now with another agent. And we brought ours on a week or 2 weeks later, and ours is sold, and it's exactly the same property. So are all agents the same? Probably not. And the reason I say that is you've got to think to yourself, and I tell every single person when I walk in the door, say, why should I choose you? We actually say we're strong negotiators at what we do. Well, prove it. Well, probably, hopefully, that's just to go in some way to prove that the fact that we do get significantly more for similar types of properties than other agents do in a shorter period of time. That's probably a clear demonstration. If you want to know exact figures, happy to discuss that with you individually. And also as well, one of the key things we ask people to ask themselves is, the property that you bought just now, would you have paid more for that property with that estate agent you bought it from? And if the answer to that is yes, then should you be using that estate agent to sell your property? Because what do you think they're going to be like negotiating with the buyer for your property? And that's the key. I would imagine that most of our buyers actually say, no, I was happy with the price I paid. I probably wouldn't have paid more. That tells us we're probably quite good at negotiating. And that's why people buy our services and buy us to do what we need to do. So not all estate agents are the same. So let's move on to some of the other issues in this blog itself and this news report. Accidental landlords. We did a show yesterday, all you need to know about making a success in Fife. It's amazing how many landlords out there are accidental. They have a property because they're either going away, they've got a job relocation, it's possibly as well, they're moving in with a partner, they're having trouble finding a buyer. That does have, some people do have an issue with that, finding a buyer for their property. So they choose to try and rent instead in order to help them release money and go and buy the property they really want. I think it's actually quite a good way. And the fact that you could actually take your existing property, you could take money out, you can go and put a deposit on your next property as your main residence, and you can keep the asset and actually rent it and have an earning income coming from it and an appreciating asset over time. Remember, it's a long-term thing. It's not a short-term get-rich-quick thing. But that's actually quite a good way to reinvest in property, and actually instead of going in the bank, because guess what you get in the bank? Absolutely zero. Possibly negative at some point in time, the way they're talking just now. So the lettings legislation is quite complex. So we've actually done a show yesterday about this. There's an article in there. It takes 4 minutes to read, but the show itself was an hour. And we gave a lot of top tips and secrets on what you should be doing as a landlord, as an investor, in order to maximize your income, in order to maximize your returns. Some really clear facts revealing in there about how other people do business. I was actually quite surprised about that in the conversations that we had. But you'll see that for yourself. There's also a podcast on there as well. One of the other events that took place as well, we did a show, Jimmy Mullen and myself, about the Fife buy-to-let property market going into crisis, and Richard was involved in this. And is it going into crisis? As the first-time buyers are now only needing 5% more deposit for a mortgage. So it's quite a key indicator there. And does this sound the death knell for the buy-to-let investment in Fife? As many tenants will soon be buying their first home, or is it? So I put the link into that show as well, and that podcast as well, and that article as well. The article is literally 3 minutes long, but it's a good one for people that want to know more about the buy-to-let market, and should they be worried as landlords, as investors, about the Fife buy-to-let market. Remember, this is all about Fife. Interestingly enough, the average price for the Fife first-time buyer is risen from £187,362 to £201,003 in the last 12 months. That is a 10.6% rise in prices. So it has gone up significantly over the years, and it will continue over all the years. Property prices since the year 2010 have actually gone up 46% since then. And I always talk about that, and the fact that if you had bought a buy-to-let investment and rented the property and then kept the debt serviced, you would have instantly made 46% return on what you had bought the property for if you had sold it today, on average. So that's a 46% uplift. What did we get over the last 10 years from the banks? What did we get over the last 10 years from the stock market? We're probably about the same level as we were like 10 years ago. So if you invested in UK equities on a spread bond with one of the investment houses, you probably would have been where you were 10 years ago. It also talks about the monthly payments on a 30-year payment, how they've gone up as well. And one of the things I'll be talking about during this week is how is the property market going to crash in 2022? And the indicators why and why not it might crash and it might not crash. So we're going to have a show on that next week sometime, or this week coming. The other thing as well, as I said, the Ready Reckoner's in there for you if you want to have a look at it, and click on it. It will give you instant valuation of your property, and it will give you the top banding based on mint condition. It will give you the lower banding based on needs a bit of work, new kitchen, new bathroom, and it will give you the midpoint as well, which is, you know, your house is probably just ready to move in, but it's needing a wee bit of improvement. Somebody put their own stamp on it, and that's in this post as well. So you can click on that at your own leisure. You don't need to speak to anybody to get that valuation. You can just click on it, put your details in, and it gives you a rental valuation, so the average rent as well you would get for your property, and it also gives you the valuation of your property. It's a really accurate tool. And if you've got any further questions, guys, please feel free to message us direct here, or you can call anyone in the offices. I'm more than happy to speak to you. And I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV.